Hi, I'm Jan Ozer, and this is your lesson of the week. If you're using BD-Rate Computations to estimate the real-world savings of adopting a new codec, you're wasting your time and almost certainly reaching the wrong conclusion. This lesson teaches you why. We'll look at what BD-Rate computations are, how they're used, why they fail in real-world applications, and also look at a better alternative, which I call weighted average computations. This lesson is included in two courses from the Streaming Learning Center, Streaming Media 101, which is used by companies like Dolby and BitMovement to onboard new streaming media professionals, and Computing and Using Video Quality Metrics, which teaches encoding professionals how to compute and use video quality metrics. And you can learn more about these courses here. Let's look at what Bjontegaard functions are, and that's the abbreviation BD-Rate. So Bjontegaard functions quantify the difference between two curves, and this drawing is from a Netflix article you can find here. So here we have encoding alternative red and encoding alternative blue, and we see, this is quality, this is rate, that the red encoding alternative delivers higher quality than the blue alternative. And what BD-Rate does is compute the data rate savings for the same quality. Essentially what it does is compute the rate difference in this area. So what's the problem with BD-Rate computations? There are three. Oftentimes, some of the bitrate ranges are far higher or lower than typically deployed by actual producers. Now, best practice when you're actually producing video is to not exceed 45 PSNR decibels because the quality difference won't be noticed by your viewers. So in this computation of BD-Rate, we're seeing most of the benefits are over 45 dB, which few producers will ever use. Usually they're computed on 4 full-resolution encodes, not a real encoding ladder. So to produce this, the researcher encoded 4 times, all at the original resolution of the video. And you never distribute your video that way. You always use lower resolutions and perhaps even lower frame rates in lower rungs of the encoding ladder. But the biggest problem with BD-Rate computations is that they measure savings without considering the frequency at which each rung actually plays. And the actual savings you'll achieve depends upon usage of each rung in the encoding ladders. So let's look at two cases, and this is from a Brightcove white paper. The purpose of the white paper is not relevant to this discussion. Now, how much bandwidth do you save delivering HEVC to mobile viewers in ladder A, this ladder here, rather than H.264? Well, if you look at the consumption in this ladder, 94% of the viewers are watching a stream at around 3.29 megabits per second. So you're going to save very little bandwidth switching from H.264 to HEVC. H.264 might be a 3.29 megabit per second 720p stream, and HEVC would still be a 3.29 megabit per second, though the stream might be at 1080p. You'll get better quality of experience, but no bitrate savings, or minimal bitrate savings. Now how about ladder B, which is more IPTV than mobile? In this case, 100% of the viewers are watching the top quality stream at 35.77 megabits per second. So in this case, you would realize the full difference between the bit rates of H.264 and HEVC in the top rungs. Let me tell you how this played out in a recent consulting project where I was hired to compute the bandwidth savings associated with switching from H.264 to HEVC. What was unusual about this customer is that they were a live shop and they were receiving 25i video, so they were getting interlaced video from their suppliers. And the H.264 video in interlace mode played fine on the set-top boxes that made up a substantial percentage of their viewers. But interlace video didn't work well with HEVC. It didn't play smoothly, so they decided they had to switch to 50p to make it work with HEVC. So even at 50p, there was a slight bandwidth savings, but it was not substantial compared to the 25i stream here. Now overall, the BD-Rate functions computed at 37%, which is a pretty promising number. Unfortunately, 96% of the plays for this particular customer were the top rung, so the real-world bandwidth savings were minimal. And in this case, BD-Rate was a poor measure of the savings that HEVC would deliver. So what do I suggest instead? What I call the weighted average savings. And in this case, you look at your current encoding ladder and you compute the average delivery bit rate and the average VMAF score or quality score using actual usage stats from your server logs. So in this case, we have this encoding ladder here, these usage stats here. You do the math and you determine that on average, you deliver around 5.275 megabits per second for an overall average VMAF score of around 91.17. And this is what it looks like with HEVC. You build the HEVC ladder, and then you bring over the usage stats as appropriate, and then you compute the weighted bitrate and the weighted VMAF score with HEVC. In this case, what we're saying is we're dropping from 5.275 to 3.655, and from 91.17, we're actually going up 2 VMAF points. So this is the actual bitrate savings that you should accrue if you switch to HEVC, and this is the VMAF boost you'll get from using a higher quality codec. The bottom line is that BD-Rate stats are useful for codec research when you're just trying to compare one codec to another, but your actual savings will vary significantly depending upon your encoding ladder and consumption patterns. And for the most accurate measure of the benefits of a new codec, use the weighted average computations, not BD-Rate.